Now, recently, Parkour Civilization has kind of taken the entire internet by storm, at least from what I've seen, because holy fuck, so many people have watched Parkour Civilization. And also, I'm looking at you artists, I've seen the yaoi that you've drawn. Don't think your sins are hidden from me, but it did get me thinking about one important question. One question that I doubt anyone would have the guts to answer. Except for me, that is. Can I, a mobile player, get through Parkour Civilization and become the parkour champion? Let's test that theory out today. Now, with that being said, let's lay out a little bit of ground rules real quick. What do I mean by ground rules? Well, obviously I, as a mobile player, have a little bit of a disadvantage compared to PC players when it comes to parkour. Just a little bit, just the tiniest bit, not that big. But to make up for this, I am allowing myself to set spawn points at 1 or 2 points in each course if I am having too much trouble with them. However, I only really needed to do that one time, and it's at one specific course that I'll mention. But also, second part, it was a little bit hard to recreate some of the courses since I was doing it by hand, and you can't exactly see all of the parts clearly. Putting some examples up now. But there may be some parts that aren't fully accurate to each section of the video as a result. I apologize, I did my best. Now let's get into it. First up is the very famous 1 block vertical beef or 1 block forward chicken. I, of course, am not a wimp, so I go for the beef. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Now we can actually get started on the interesting stuff. Now, we're looking at the noob to pro parkour right here. This isn't necessarily a hard parkour course. However, I'm giving myself the limitation that I'm not allowed to sprint during this parkour except at the very last jump, since obviously it's impossible without sprint. Now, this section specifically does have some parts that aren't the most clear on the video what they're supposed to be, so it may not be 100% accurate as to what it's fully meant to entail. However, I did my best to recreate it by analyzing the video, and I did have to take some creative liberties. Now, we're at the slab section. Slabs are decently easy, it's just half block jumps. Now, what's interesting was when I got to the stair section, because I got to that one point in the video where we got to here, where Evbo failed that jump. And then I proceeded to also fail that jump when I did it. But, second time I did it, worked out just fine. Everything was great. But I just felt that was funny enough to mention. The wall parkour honestly was not that bad. A lot of it honestly was just 1 blocks or 1 block verticals. So it really just was not difficult in the slightest. But thankfully, the new parkour, very easy to get through, did not take any time whatsoever. And with that, we are now moving on to the next section, now that we've completed the impossible 3-block jump. We are now on the temple path upwards to the pro to master parkour course. And this was another section that was very hard to replicate. There were just some portions that didn't really make sense when I was looking at the video, so I just simply did my best, put down what I thought made sense. If anything, I probably made it harder on myself because this is what it looked like I had to do with ladders and stuff, and I don't think that's what you're meant to have there. But again, I did my best. If anything, I made it harder on myself so you guys won't complain. But the point is, this was surprisingly difficult. I did not expect it to be as difficult as it was, or to take as much time as it did, but it ended up working out. We got through it decently easily. Didn't need to use my spawn point handicap that I used because, it's not that hard. It's just you're going up a temple wall. How hard could it be to go up a wall? It's funny considering what happens later. But you know what? It's fine. We're just going up a wall. Now, the materials used were actually kind of interesting. It was hard to replicate this part of the parkour course without having walls at this specific section because it was very hard to mirror the blocks. But again, this was no difficult set of jumps. They were just 3 blocks, 3 block verticals, maybe some, in the case of that, little bit of almost head hitters, but not necessarily ladder jumps, etc. So now, part of the reason why recreating this specific section was so difficult was because the blocks blended together in the video itself, and that made it really hard to differentiate things like elevation and everything, especially zooming in. But regardless, we completed the course. Now we can move on to the hard course, the Pro to Master. And oh man, this is a doozy. I ended up replicating the part of the course where there's the barrier stairs. I just figured it'd be a little bit harder than the fence jumps. The trees were a bit to recreate, but other than that, should be relatively one-to-one. I apologize in advance that the trees might not be fully accurate to all of that. Now, this section, I did use my spawn point handicap. The reason I used my spawn point handicap is because of one particular jump, which I will get to in a moment, that just set me off. But yeah, here we are, invisible barrier bridge, just gets you up to the next set of fences, easy as that. That's just the route that I thought would be best to go, since that's the route that Evbo did. Now, trapdoors, I did cheese it a little bit because I thought, hey, why make it harder on myself than I had to? Work smarter, not harder, as they say. And you know, it worked out for me clearly because I got through this section of the parkour, as you guys are about to see. A lot of the trapdoor section wasn't too bad. I was a lot more in my head about the section than I had to be. The door section, though, that was annoying. Now, none of these jumps ended up like causing me to use my spawn point handicap, but a lot of them were very infuriating. I'll get to one of them in a second. But as you can see, some of these jumps up with the door that I have to use, where I'm, jumping up the door, I didn't know we could do on mobile at first. I thought that was a Java thing, but it wasn't. This jump was annoying. And the reason why it was annoying is because I didn't think to use the door originally. I, again, didn't use a spawn point there, but that had led to many deaths. I did use a spawn point at this section, though, because of this jump. This jump, I cannot stress how nervous and how awful that jump is. Because, oh my god, I failed that jump way too many times, and I just couldn't do it. I just could not do it. So I set my first spawn point there, and I ended up getting through the rest of the section. Once I set the spawn point there, it didn't take as many attempts to get through. This fence jump made me so nervous, because this was the last, actually hard bit, in my opinion, of this parkour. So if I failed this, I would be doing the hard stuff all over again. But thankfully got through it. I did my best to recreate the slime block as accurately as possible. It may not be fully correct, the proportion-wise, but I feel like I did a decent job. We're going up to the bricks, and now the chains. I wasn't as nervous about the chains. I've always been decent with finer parkour, like chains and candles and such. That proves to not be true later, but we'll see. But I was relatively confident at this point in the course. You can see that in the way I was moving. I just shifted at the right moments, got through everything decently well. I actually did what Evbo did and stood on the block and then jumped over. But that's the Pro to Master course done. We are now officially parkour masters. But now we move on to the miscellaneous section. We have that 5-block ice jump that we see Evbo do. And then we have every arena jump that Evbo had to do in the arena laid out in front of us, and we're going to attempt to recreate every single one the same way, including, that's right, the 5-block jump that the champion did. I'll get to that one in a second. But it ends with our 3-block Neo. Now, admittedly, when I got here, I was not sure if I was going to be able to do this part, because, a 3-block Neo, I've never seen anyone in Bedrock, much less mobile, ever do a 3-block Neo. I've hardly seen mobile players ever do Neos in the first place. But, sometimes we have to be the trailblazers. As you can see, I've been blasting through parts of this parkour. The 5-block ice jump, too easy. The 180 at the end, not hard in the slightest. 4-block jumps, kind of my kryptonite. But, it's fine. It happens. We also did that right there. Now, each cut in the video is just I am showing the first time I actually completed each jump and cutting out all the fails, because obviously I didn't do all of this on my first try. If I claimed that I did it all on my first try, that'd be ridiculous. This section messed with me a little bit. Admittedly, it's not as fast as how Evbo did it in the parkour, because I'm not that good at it, but still managed to do the backwards jump, the 360 onto the candle, etc. Now the 5-block jump. Let me explain this one. This one's going to be a doozy. Obviously, a 5-block jump is impossible. So how are you going to do it? Well, you know, sometimes you just have to go for it. You just have to do your best, even if it's the worst. So I go for it. I do the jump, and I completely miss it, because of course I do. A 5-block jump is impossible. What the fuck did you expect me to happen? But, like Evbo, I get up one last time. Now let's do this shit. Now this one, I made a lot harder on myself than I had to. I did a 540 instead of a 360. I feel like if I do a harder jump, it should count to recreate it, but it's fine. It's fine. You guys don't need to see that. Now this, I admit, I did very slowly because I did not want to mess it up because that is such a hard jump to do a 360 backwards on a candle, but I managed to do it. All's well that ends well. This section kind of messed me up a little bit. This took me a hot minute to do, but if I'm talking about it, I obviously got through it pretty well and managed to get through landing on the candle. And now the fun part, the 3-block Neo. This, I did not think I was going to be able to do this. And then I did. I did manage to do a 3-block Neo on mobile parkour. And now there's only one section left. We've gotten through the arena, and now we're on the champion's path up. And I mentioned there was only one point that I used my spawn point thing. I lied. There's a second one. And it's this section. Because holy Evbo should have put this in his video because of how difficult these end rods are, at least on mobile. Do you know how precise on all of these jumps you have to be and how long that goes on? It is so insanely difficult to be that consistent for that long. This is another section I'm not entirely sure if I recreated perfectly, just because it was kind of hard to tell from the video, but I did my best, and holy shit, this section took me like 4 or 5 hours to do. And this is actually, you know, I finally let myself use a spawn point about halfway up so that I didn't want to delay this video. So I set a spawn point about halfway up so that I could actually get through this. And I still managed to get through it. But again, this section took me so long that I had to consider delaying the video to do it. I allowed myself to use a spawn point for that. It is one of 2 sections that I let myself use a spawn point at. As a mobile player, I feel like that's fair. Now this jump, the first time I tried it, I failed the jump, and I was so angry because it was my first time getting through the course. But now we're in the home stretch. We just got the one section upwards, the spiral jump staircase to the champion. And I'll admit, I didn't think I would get to here because I thought I'd be stuck at the 3-block Neo. I did not think that I would be able to do the 3-block Neo just because of the sheer difficulty it would be as a mobile player to actually commit to that. Because I'm really bad at parkour too. It just takes an insane amount of effort for me to actually be good. As you're about to see in a moment when I accidentally take a little bit of a tumble. Not a full tumble, but a little bit of a tumble. Take a little bit of a tumble, just about... Where do I take the tumble? There it is. I take the tumble. But it's fine. We keep moving. Because in the end, like Evbo said, parkour isn't about how many times you fail. It's about how many times you get back up and you keep trying. And that's why I even recreated the throne for myself. The throne and the technically 3 blocks. I didn't mean for that to be... Is that 3 blocks? I might have accidentally made it 3 blocks. You know what? It's fine. Command blocks. You know, they are what they are. Anyways, that's the video. I hope you guys enjoyed watching me definitively prove that even a mobile player can in fact end up as the parkour champion.